Hello, this is Code with Clarks, and today we're going to be working on our first e-commerce project, and we can go ahead and open a new terminal. And in that terminal, you can cd in any directory or storage that you want to keep your folders in. I want to keep my stuff for the moment only on the desktop, so I'm going to cd to the desktop, clear the terminal so everything is nice. And in the desktop, I'm going to create a new folder or directory and mk there and make directory, and I'm going to call that one for YouTube, and it has been created. I'm going to cd into that directory for YouTube, and I'm going to list what's inside of it just to be sure. So it's empty, there's nothing inside that folder. And in there, I'm going to npx create a next application at latest to get the latest dependencies, and I'm going to call this application ecom. And we're going to wait for it to be created at this directory, and it's going to use npm and install these dependencies for us. React library, the React DOM package that comes with it, and the Next framework. To be fair with everyone, for people who already knows what this stuff is all about, I don't think there should be a problem or a need to explain this stuff. So I'm going to keep this video just simple and just run the commands and get the application started and then start working. Later on, I should probably make another video for people who doesn't know the difference between a library, a package, a framework, modules, boilerplate. Like this one, this is a boilerplate to create a standard Next application with the latest dependencies. So later on, we're gonna work and talk about everything in intricate details. For now, let's just get our app running and start working. So it has installed the dependencies for us. It's found 0 vulnerabilities, which is great. And it's going to install some dev dependencies for us. ESLint and its configurations that comes with Next. Give it a few seconds as well, and hopefully we see a success message. And success, which is great. Now we can go ahead and I'm going to open my VS Code from here. You can work in an IDE that you like, as long as you cd or change your directory to ecom while working in any IDEs you like, or even in the command line if you like using some command line tools or something. For now, I'm going to open my VS Code by typing code ecom, and it's going to open my application for me in VS Code. I can go ahead and close this terminal. For people who have 2 monitors or like to split their screen, they can just keep this terminal right here and work with it, as it's going to be needed to run the commands. For now, I'm going to go ahead. I know I'm in the ecom in here folder, which represents my application. I'm going to go to terminal, new terminal. And I'm going to work with the terminal in VS Code, and I'm going to type to start my localhost server, and I'm going to type npx nextdev or npm run dev. It shouldn't matter because they're running the same script. And it's going to start my server. I'm going to command click on the link they give me and check it up. All right. My localhost is up and running. My index page is running as well. I can go back to my VS Code now and start working. I'm going to go to the Explorer, go to Pages, go to Index. And in the index, I'm going to get in the imports. I'm going to keep the head import, head module, or component that comes from this module. I'm going to get rid of the image component and get rid of the styles, as we're going to be making ours. I'm going to get rid of this style in the div, and always components and pages should have one surrounding tag or element, whatever you want to call it. They should be wrapped inside one. Let's just call it fragment for now, just for the sake of understanding it if you never worked with Next.js before or React. So I'm going to keep the head component, and I'm going to get rid of everything beneath it except the closing div tag. I'm gonna write in here index or homepage just to be sure that everything is rendered correctly. And I'm gonna save now and check my browser or navigator. And it's saying homepage, so it's successfully rendered. So for now I can start working. And first thing I want to do is I want like each page, professional page. I probably need a header. You may call it a NavBar, a TopBar. For me, I'm going to call it a TopBar. I'm going to do it a little bit in reverse and create the component, import it, even if I know it's not created yet. We'll be creating it in a second. And we call that component TopBar down there, and it's going to be coming from, and we're going to be creating a folder as a sibling to the parent's current parent, which is pages. That means let's go ahead and create it. That means in the ecom, just click on an empty space in here if you're clicking somewhere, and right click, new folder, and call this one components. Inside components, create a new file. Inside that folder, create a new file, whatever you want to name your component. I'm going to keep everything the same just to be organized. I'm going to call it also TopBar.js. I'm going to do the abbreviation RFCE. If you don't have this abbreviation, you can go ahead to the plugins and get the ES7 Plus, React Redux, and React Native Snippets version 4.3.2. Install it and activate that. You can get also some bracket per colorizer. It works well to get the brackets colorized, and you for example, if you click here, it would show you the opening and closing tag and some other stuff that it does. You can go ahead and get the plugins I have in here. Some of them are really useful, like this bracket pair, but if you want to run that abbreviations, you should get this one. So you can RFCE, and it'll get you a R for React, and F for function. C is for React functional component, a component called TopBar, and E is exporting it. So when you type in RFCE, it'll get you a React functional component and export it for you. For now, I'm going to go inside this return, and I'm just keep it as TopBar. I'm going to get rid of that import as NextJs already use React in the background, and it knows we're using React as well. And let's just keep it as TopBar. And if it TopBar renders, text renders in our navigator, that means everything is working. And yeah, we didn't finish the import in here, so it was coming from components, and the name was TopBar. Save, and I should be seeing TopBar. So that's what I'm seeing right there. So let's go ahead now that it's been rendered. That means it's been exported correctly, and it's imported correctly and invoked correctly. So I can close the index for now and go to the TopBar and start working. I'm going to leave that surrounding div. Like we said, the rule before, always our components or the pages, because they're also functional components, and they need to be wrapped inside one element. So I'm going to keep that div and get rid of that placeholder right there, TopBar. And in that div, before doing some styles, let's just create a structure. So I want to have a simple structure. I'm going to go do a little cheating and copy the same div, and inside of it, paste it a couple times. I'm going to do format the document in here and save inside of here. Keep this placeholder for now, left and right. Actually, let's do a 3 columns structure, just for the sake of showcasing that. Left, right, and the middle one should be middle. If I save this and go ahead to my browser, navigator again, just semantics, it doesn't matter. I can see that my divs has been rendered correctly. And why are they on each line? Because a div is a block element. In simple words, it's a greedy element. HTML 101. That means a div is going to take all the width of the screen available for it. So let's go to styles, get rid of the home module as we don't need it anymore. We erased it. invoke the import for it in the index. So let's create our own file, and in the styles, let's create a TopBar st for styles. You can call it whatever you want to call it, TopBar st, and I'm gonna create it as a module so it can be imported and fragmented correctly. Inside of the TopBar, oh, let's just close it and let me split my VS Code window, and inside the other window I'll open it right there so I can see my stuff while working on it. So I have here a GSX, or let's just say it's HTML, and I have here the CSS for it. So I'm gonna give actually, let me import that styles first, and on top of my component I'm gonna import tbst for TopBar styles. Call it whatever you want to call it, and it's going to be coming from where? From dot to get the siblings, and go to styles folder and access it, and inside we call that file TopBar st dot module dot css. Okay, let's give class names first. In my surrounding div, I'm going to give it a class name, and I'm going to get rid of that and do a brackets instead. Class name equals brackets. Inside those brackets, I'm going to invoke or call the whole file of the styles, and inside we want to have a class name called TopBar container. Okay, I'm going to copy that, go to my styles, dot, control V, brackets. And just to be able to see it, I'm going to give it a background color for now. And just give it some green. And give it a small padding to be able to see it. Actually, we have a text placeholder inside of it, so we'll be able to see it anyways. I'll add that padding, so I'll keep it for later. 0.2 rem. And save. Go back to my navigator, and it's not working, probably because I didn't save something. Let me get rid of one of the stuff I have in the bar here. Let me get rid of Inkscape so I can start seeing my navigator. And okay, yes, we didn't save in here when we gave it the class name, and now we should be able to see it. So I want to split, as this container itself is a block element. I want to now display it instead of that natural default state of the div tag, which is block. Instead of block, I'm going to use the grid and say grid display as a grid. And grid by nature or by default uses rows, so nothing is going to change. We can even see that if I save this, you can see nothing changes. But if I go ahead and say the shortcut grid template, and I want columns, and I know I have 3 sections for now, I'll give them the fragment. If someone don't know how the fragment works, if you do an addition in here, it's 1 plus 1 plus 1, it's 3. So we tell this grid, or the CSS or the browser navigator who's going to compile the code, we tell it to split the width of the screen, no matter how much is the width of screen, split it to 3 columns, equal size, and give 1 to the first content you have inside of you, which is this div. Give 1 to this one and 1 to this one fragment, which is like a percentage. If I save this, now I'm able to see the difference. Okay, if I go to inspect and choose in here this tool right here, and you can see that you can see the dashes, I have the same section sizes, 3 of them. But my text right now, I can see on the y-axis that it's alive. We say this is the top of the page 0, and if we go down and this is 10, for example, pixels on the y-axis, we can see that they're aligned on the same axis, but we can still specify that, you never know, just to have a robust code and say align items to the center, as we want to align what's inside the divs. So we're not going to use align content for now, we're going to use align items. Item inside a content inside a grid. Just always remember that when you're working with grid. And we're going to justify the items as well, which is what's inside. And justify, when we say align, that's the y-axis. On the x-axis, I want to justify whatever is inside each div, div of my 3 divs. I want to justify or fix on the x-axis each item inside and take it to the center of its own section respectively. I can achieve that by saying justify items to the center. And you can see that my items are centered correctly. I can do that in here, okay? Or I can leave that for now and save. And I want to tell you why, as this would target all the items you have, and you can see that each one has been centered. But I want only for now to center this middle text or placeholder in its own section, and for the left and I'll leave it right there, and for the right I want it to be on this side, the end. So I'm going to target those by giving them class names. I can even do a little bit of cheating. Copy that class name and give it to my div in here, Control V. Give it to the second div as well, Control V there, and to the third div. And I want to select between those 3, select the first one and select this class name by double clicking on it, and Control D once and twice to get all 3 of them, and then erase and say section. Go back to the first and say L section as for left section, M section, and the third one R section. Save and go to my styles file and get the L section class name. I'm gonna also, or actually let's just target it. If we want to target it itself, as we know now it's a content of our grid, instead of targeting all of them in here, I'm going to target only that specific one. So in my left section, I do justify self, and to do not to the center, but keep it in the start. And I can go ahead and copy this and paste it 3 times. Instead, second one, change it to M section, the last one to R section. The middle one, we want to keep it in the center, and the last one in the end of its own container. If I save this and choose my tool right here, you can see that the middle has now snapped to the middle of its own section. The left has just stayed in the start, and the right text has jumped to the end of its section. So we have a basic structure. Now we can go ahead and get rid of our placeholders. Get rid of them, and instead, let's have another div. Let's just copy that same one and paste it inside of it. And instead of the class name, we'll change it to icon. Okay. I'm going to copy that same div we just created, and I'm going to paste a couple, which I'm going to leave in the left section 2 icons or 2 divs with the class name icon, and in M section or middle section, I'm going to paste it once, and in the right section, like the first section, I'm going to give it 2 icons. And if I format the document and save, you can see that nothing is showing up, only that little padding in our section. It's because we don't have nothing inside. So instead, this first, let's import, so we can use the image component that Next gives us. We can use the image, import the image. And inside that icon, I want to create or use or invoke that image. Close the tag for it. And as attributes or props for it, properties, I'm going to give it a source, and I'll fill that up in a minute so it don't throw any errors. I'll give it a height and width as well. But actually, I'll control the height and width from the div itself that contains them, which is the icon. So in my icon, I targeted right now, even I'll go to the styles file, the icon, I want it to have a width of 48 pixels and a height of 48 pixels. For now, that's all we want inside of it. I'll save my styling file, and I want copy that image, and inside the second div, under that one, paste it again, and in the one in the middle section, paste it there, and in the two that we have created in the right section, paste each image respectively in each icon or div that have the class name icon. I can reformat the document just so everything is indented and looking nice. I'll save everything, and I'm gonna have errors because we have a empty expression. So I'm gonna go ahead and get me some we'll just use this as placeholders for now. Let's use this fav icon, the ICO, and we'll get it by getting to slash to get to the public resources, and we have a fav icon .ico. You can check that up that it's working correctly. And for the width, let's just give 100. Actually, let's again select that width and Control D to get all of them. Left arrow and get inside those brackets and type in 100, just so we don't have to redo everything. And Control D again for the height, and also give it 100. In the source, for now, like we said, they're just placeholders. I'm gonna go inside of it and give it the same one, which is the fav icon ACO, and save. Man, they are here. You can see that we still have 3 same size sections, and let's put, because again, a div is a block element, which is the icon, so those are showing as rows because they're taking 100% of the size of the container they're in. So we want to change that behavior. So on my left section, I want to also display that not as a block, as a natural form. I'm going to give it also a grid, as we fixed that solution from our first problem. And also grid template columns, as I don't want rows. And just split yourself to 2 equal sizes, one to the first image and one to the second one. Or let's call them icons. I'm going to copy that same and give it to the right section. The M section we'll talk about it later. For now, I don't want it. It's only containing 1 icon, so we don't want to change that. So I'll save my files again. Go back to my browser, and yes, you can see that my stuff is working correctly. Beside that right section, what did I do wrong in it? Right section, I don't think I did anything wrong. And save, and it's still not working correctly. Maybe I should be loading the page again. Nope. So I commit a mistake. What is it? R section, M section, left section. Let's see if I self to the end and the columns to 1 fragment and 1 fragment. So what is really the problem in here? I can't see it. I really can't see that. Let me check that up. Left section and right section. Typos are correct. This is working, so the other one should be working. But we have some mistake probably. If it's not, we do have a mistake. So let's go over again. My container is displayed as a grid and split to 3 equal size parts, and it's aligning the items to the center. Okay, and the left section justifies self at start, display of grid, and the template columns of 1 fragment and 1 fragment. Middle section, nothing is going to happen to it. And the right section, we want it to be on the end, and the template, the columns should be 1 for. Let's get rid of that and see if that's what's causing the problem, even if I don't think so. Yeah, it's not what's causing the problem. Save again. That's really weird. Unless I commit a mistake when I created those divs in here. Div is correct. Div is correct. Closing tag is correct. So this is a little bit weird. I'm not gonna lie. I probably have a mistake. And I'm not gonna edit the video. I'll just keep that as a learning process. I'm gonna stop my server and rerun it. npx next dev. Check my page again and reload it. And no, it's not changing. I'm gonna inspect that. This tool in here and check icons. Okay, let's do something else. Let's do... Oh. Sometimes you just gotta open your eyes. I didn't even display it as a grid and I'm expecting it to become columns. I'm sorry about that. Probably people have seen that, who's watching it since the beginning. But sometimes you just gotta keep an eye on and just focus. And I lost a little focus right here and forgot to copy that display of grid. Now everything should work correctly. At 3 sections, same size. Usually I go with the more than 10. I go to the 12 fragments, and you can see that my middle section is gonna always be the bigger one. You can put an input bar in here. I mean a search bar, as famous websites do. Like e-commerce websites, they usually have the top bar and search bar inside of it. But for now, I like to have a search bar as a own component, and it should be under the top bar. That's just our own preference. It's up to you. But later on, we can create another container, another video in different styles. For example, this one should be an e-commerce style, and we'll create a blog style, a finance website style, just such things. For now, let's go ahead and finish what we're doing. So we do have that stuff in here. You can go ahead and get your images. I have some images in here. You can get them, import them, or get them font awesome or somewhere. I have my own icons in here. And for now, which color I'm going to use? I'm going to get the white ones. We have a green top bar. Put them in the public folder. And inside that first image, I want to change it to a menu icon.png. Second one, I want it to be a, that's just a personal preference again. I have language icon right there. And we'll talk later about the logic. This part is just, in this video, is just about the UI. But we'll still talk about what we want to achieve in the end of this video. And in the middle section, I want to have, you can have your logo, a home icon. It's up to you. I want to have a logo. And in the last section, I want to have a, as this is a e-commerce style top bar, I want to have a user icon .png as well, that I have in my folder, my public folder. And okay, last one should be a card icon .png. Hopefully everything is working. I saved my stuff in here, and my language icon is not showing up because I didn't write the extension for it, which is .png. I'm gonna save, and it's working pretty correctly. Also my yeah, I don't have a logo for now, so I'm gonna go ahead and just use the home icon. I'll save. Everything is looking pretty nice. So for now, what I'm gonna do is go to this icon right here. As I know it's a square, I'm gonna give it a border radius for 50% and a, just to see it, a background color. And let's just get the green in there and access it and make it a little bit more darker or lighter. Personal preference, it's up to you. I'm gonna make it a little bit darker. Check it up. Okay, the icons look big inside that container. So what I'm gonna do, this icon itself, because I can see, I don't know if it's just my eye, but I can see that this language icon is not perfectly centered inside the div containing it. So I'm gonna do a display of grid and justify. Now it's the direct child, so I'm gonna do justifying content to the center and aligning the content to the center as well. Save that, and it's looking pretty nice. Maybe it was just my eye, but just to be on the safe side, better use a grid and center my content to the center of it. Okay, so for now, that was the color was just a placeholder, so I'm gonna retarget that icon itself and give it a selector of hover, and when I hover over it, that's when I want this background to change. So I'm gonna erase it from the icon class and get it in the hover class of the icon and save. And now if I hover, I can see that background color. But the icons are a little bit big. I don't want to change the width and height, as it is recommended to have a good size, like 42, 48 is good for both desktops and phones. You can check that up in your phone, connect to your local host, get your terminal, type in inside of it, inside your terminal, type in, close your server or open a new terminal, click in ipconfig, or write the command ipconfig, and you will get different informations. Go ahead and find the IPv4 address, and it should be something like a 100, for example, 128.100 something dot something, and do a 2 dots or a column, port 3000. Just write 3000 on your phone, and you'll be able to access your local host from your phone or any other devices in your house or close to you that you want to test your website on. I usually keep my phone next to me and check that up. And you can check it up also if you're satisfied by this size, but I'm going to keep it as 48 to get a good target, clickable target for both phones and desktop and other devices. And instead, I want to give it a padding, which is space inside space, and let's just say 1 rem for the moment and experiment how it's gonna look like. That's too much. I'm gonna do half of that and check it up as well, and it's looking pretty good for me, also on the phone as for the browser. So that's just a personal preference again. Maybe that's a little bit too much. I'm gonna get it 1 notch down, 0.4 rems, and it's pretty good. And also when I hover over it, you can see that my cursor don't change. It's the standard arrow, and let's just make it more looking more like a clickable thing. So inside of the icon, I'm gonna give it a cursor off pointer, so I can get a hand pointing at that icon whenever I hover over it. Okay, now we have created this basic structure. Last thing before I forget that, close the left section and middle section. I'm done with those. In my instead of the last div, the last icon or div with the class name icon that contains the cart icon, I'm gonna retarget. You can give it 2 class names. I just like to keep my stuff individual classes. That's just again a personal preference. It's just how you like your workflow to be. I'm gonna Control C that cart icon and copy it. The name, Control V in here, brackets. I'm gonna literally get everything in the icon Control C, and put it in that cart icon. Add one thing, and which is a position of relative. Okay, I'll save. See, nothing changes. But now inside that div, under that image, actually in that, let me think about it for a second. Actually, let's just work with it and see what's going to happen, because we just defined the content and aligning the content, and this is now a grid. So let's just see how it's going to behave first. So beneath that image, stay on that div, may collapse that, just the last div or the second div or the second icon in the right section. Under that image, I want to create a something, I don't know. Let's just use a span for now. And inside that span, let's just give it a placeholder 4. Okay. Actually, let's give it also a class name. See in here, in that span or div, it's up to you. And I'm going to say in the class name number of, and I'm just going to type it like this, a long name, just for you to be able to follow numbers or number of items in cart. And save. Okay. Target that in here. Control C dot Control V brackets. Before I forgot, let's copy the same hovering effect of the icon and copy it under that, and instead of icon, change it to cart icon. Okay, save. See that my icon is now behaving weirdly because it's a display of grid. We'll change that in a minute, it doesn't really matter. So okay, let's do something. In my cart icon, let's get rid of the justify, and actually that was not necessary to have a display of grid. I'm gonna get rid of it. I think that just my eyes was playing tricks on me, because I know that my icons are, you can go even check it up, they're 48 on 48. They're squares. And I specified that div, the icon div, to be 48 on 48 as well. So that was just my eyes playing a little trick on me. It's fine, we don't need that display of grid, so I'll just keep them as they are. And okay, now we should not be seeing that problem in here, and instead we should be seeing this kind of problem. So what I'm going to do inside my number of items cart, I'm going to go and do a position. And I know that the parent itself, the first parent that's going to encounter, which is the cart icon, is going to have a position of relative. So this is absolute to that position. Just by typing that, I'm going to save. And you can see that my number now jumps on top of the relative parents. The first relative parents that I found is the cart icon. I can do a position top of 0 relative to that parents, and a right of 0 to see how it's gonna behave first. Okay, it's on top and to the right, both 0. I'm gonna give it a background color. For now, let's just give it a black and save. Okay, and I want to square that up, so let's give it a width of, for now, 1 rem and height of 1 relative m as well. Save, and I square that up, and the text is a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is this one itself, display it as a grid and align the content to the center and justify the content to the center as well. Save. Okay, and go ahead and change the color inside of that text and change it to, for now, some whitish or something that is clear, softer. And you can see it in there. I know that this is a square, so I can permit myself to give it a border radius of 50% to make it a circle. Okay, and my text, I want to have font size. I want to have it as a 1x small, and the font weight, I want it to be bold, or I can use a 900 value. And save. And it's looking pretty nice, but it's small. So we can do a 1.5 and see how it's gonna look like in here in the width and height. Save again, and okay, and change the text to just small. And it's looking pretty. Let's have some space to work with, because if I do right of minus, for example, 2 pixels, just for the sake seeing it, let's just do, for example, minus 8 pixels. I want to like just showcase that I'm gonna start having this little problem. You can see my top bar is acting weirdly. It's because my this span is trying to overtake that position. So I'll keep it as 0. Okay, and I want to have some space to work with in here without having that trouble. So what I can do is target my left section. Left section is this one. Just to keep it symmetrical, we want some space from the sides, both sides in here. So I'm going to give to my left section a margin left of 0.5 rems. And as it is from the left, I want some space from the left. And in my right section, I want to do some margin right of 0.5 rem. Keep stuff symmetrical, like I said, just for a nice design. And we have some space to work with now. 0.5 were a little bit too much. Let's get that to 0.3. 0.3 would be looking good. All right, it's looking good. Even in, and I'm going to explain what just happens there. It's not a big problem, as we're going to fix it later. So you can see that my bar is acting correctly, and it's responsive as well. And that small problem right there is, why is it happening? My div, or my image, or the icon, or the div containing itself, I know for a fact that I specified a specific width for it and height, which is 48 pixels. Okay, so the width is 48. So what's happening here is 48 plus 48, it's what, 96? 96 and 96 is 180, and 12, 192, and 40 to 130, and some stuff like it's almost 240. So you can see that whenever I reach the 245 or 7, you can see, because my icon's gonna always remain at 48, you can see, start seeing that quirk mode. See? So we're gonna fix that later by doing some media queries on that on smaller devices, but there's probably like 250 happens, like let's say 270, and it's still looking good. I mean, you can see that I'll choose a small device here. For example, a Galaxy Fold is 280. It's really thin. In the width, it's really, you know, it's a short width. It's only 280. You can see that it's still looking correctly, still looking nice, except it's just starting to, you can see that white line in my top bar here. So we can fix that later by using some media queries. For now, for the major devices, you can check them up in here. The laptop, even the 4K is looking great. Just those small details, you know, it's always useful and helpful to give those details. So in here, I added that little space so I can move this a little bit further to the right. I'm going to do that by saying minus 0.2 rems. And as I cleared 0.3 rem, in the margin, right? And I, just to be symmetrical, give that to the left section as well from the left. Now I have a 0.3 RAM to work with and play with, and I did here 0.2 RAM, which gonna leave a 0.1 from this side, just to be on the safe side. You never know, we don't want that behavior to happen and our top bar comes shorter. So it's looking pretty neat. One last thing is I'm gonna go to my background color and make it transparent a little bit. That's too much. Actually, I don't want to make it transparent. I'll just soften the color for it. And I don't know about you, to me it looks nice. I'll still get that transparency a notch down. And it's looking pretty good. Except a little bit of a problem here. But that shouldn't be a problem. It's up to you. Like I said, again, it's personal preference. You can even choose to not even have a color right there. See? And work, like play with that text. For example, let's say from the right, let's say 50%, and from the left, let's say 50%. I don't think that's gonna work. I should use 25, I guess. Let's say 25% and 5%. And you can see that it comes to the middle right here. You can play with that. It's just up to you, the positioning and stuff. It doesn't really matter. I'm gonna keep my stuff as I made them first time and keep it at a 0.0 or minus 0.2 reps. And it's looking pretty nice for me. I'm gonna get that transparency back up. Let's see if we choose a more lighter color. Okay. So what's disturbing me? I'm gonna just solve that problem, like by giving a z index smaller. Let's just give it a 10 in here for the number of car items. And in the cart itself, the cart icon, I'm gonna give it a z index of actually I gave 2 the items are 10, and I should give 11 in here, for example. Okay, let's check that up. Let me check, do a little check. Get that there. Okay, it's still overtaken, which is not a big problem. Number of items in cart is in the 10, and the cart icon is in the z index of 11. So it's not gonna work as it is relative, so the z index is not gonna work. It's not a really a big deal. I just wish we could just get that number of items under that div. But it should be fine for now. I'm gonna decrease that width to 0.3 or 1.3 rem, the width and height. And I'm gonna leave it right there and get back to my colors, which is a more dark background. And I'll leave the text as a white. And we'll have to do some inspecting later. Whenever we're finishing with our homepage, we'll go and do some, for example, some lighthouse reports and see what's going on with our contrast, and if we choose correct colors, and if there's some quirk modes or some problems. For now, we can inspect. We can see that we have no errors in here, and everything is looking nice. And overfix the cursor to the pointers correctly. And let's talk about what we want to achieve in the next video. The next video, we want to talk about the logic behind our top bar. So we want, when we click on our menu here, we want to have a menu that's going to slide down from the side, as is, we want to create a side navigation, a menu that's going to slide from here, and whenever we click on close menu, we're going to slide it back. This should be a language icon, which we can toggle it, click on it, and it'll show us the default language, for example, the English language, and then it gives us or prompt us to choose if we want to change, for example, to the French or some other language. In here, we want to check if we are already in the index page or the home page. We want to stay here if you click on it, but if you are in another page, for example, the about page, and you click on home, you want to go back to the home page. The user icon, later on in the last stages of the project, this e-commerce project, it's going to take a little while, but hopefully you take this right with us and learn along the way. This one, later on, after doing validation, authentication, sanitizing the inputs, our database is working correctly, and for example, we're using some GWTs or using cookies. We want to hear if you connect and you already connected, we want to show you your profile pic in here, for example, for people who want to use this functionality. And if you're not, we want to show you the register. If you click on here, you get a register form, and it obscures the background behind of it, and you can register in here, or we can have it in a dedicated page, for example, /register. And in the cart icon, we want to, when we click, get the cart menu to pop up from this side, and it's going to give you a small amount of information on your product that you picked up from the product card we'll be creating later. And if you want to have more details or go ahead to finish the buying your products, you click on get all details or check the cart page, and we should create a dedicated page for that, which is cart, which is going to be dynamic, and everything's going to be working correctly. We're going to encounter some problems though when we're going to be creating this logic. For example, let's talk about the first problem we're going to encounter, and we're going to fix it in the next video when working on our menu. Is when we click on our menu, and for example, let's imagine we already have a menu and it slides. You can see that we wanted to take all from here top to bottom of the page, and it's going to overtake the presence, or we're not going to be able to see anymore these two icons right here. So this one's going to be controlling the opening, so we want to have another icon to control the closing. Even with that, we still have a problem. Imagine this is open, but if I click on the cart icon, it's going to open as well from here. And if I click on the register, it's going to open as well. So it's a little mess, and we don't want that. So we want to, when our menu is open, we want to have an overlay or target in this events themselves, target if the menu is open. We don't want to do anything else till the menu is closed. The simple solution we want to use is when you create on anything, for example, if the menu is 25% of the screen and it's stopping this way, if you click on anywhere in here, we want to close the menu as well. So the menu is going to be closed from two places, actually three places. The first place is when we open it, in the menu itself, we should have an icon or a button that says close menu. Okay. We want to also have the functionality of clicking anywhere in this side of the screen that's going to be empty. And for example, in our menu, we probably have a link to the home page itself. For example, we'll have home, about, contact us, info, and then for example, shop by departments, and we'll get some departments, or shop by categories, or shop by price, by theme, by color, and then some, for example, your orders, your shopping list, your favorites, stuff like that. Normal menu functionalities. We want to, when we click also on any route or link to a page, for example, to the about page or to the home page, to the about page, my menu is going to close automatically. It's not a problem. But when we click on the home page itself, which is this one, if we are already in the home page, which is the index, and we open the menu and click on index, we'll see that problem later. It's going to stay on this page, and it's not going to close the menu. So that's the third place where we're going to close the menu, is if you click on the home page or any for the matter of it, any page that have a link in the menu and you click on it, if you are in that same page, we want you to close the menu, because you're not going to route to it and the menu is going to stay open, and it's not a good for the user experience. So we're going to encounter those problems and solve them. Hopefully everything was clear and understandable, and I guess we'll see you in the next video. Subscribing and liking the video would be really appreciated, but you're not forced to. You can still get your information for free. So see you later.